So now we can create instead of collecting A and B all the time, we can collect A and B once. So if we just say addition, it will go and look for those initial A and B's and do the addition with them. If I say subtraction, it will go and look for those first A and B's and use them, instead of asking the user for A and B all the time. So how do we do that? Yes, this function is called a creator. What it does is, constructor. What it does is, it creates, when you create the object, once you create the object, it will initialize everything to your settings. So it's like when you buy a new phone and you turn it on and it's asking you all those questions for settings and you are giving it the value. Think of it like that. So how do you write an instantiator? You use 2 underscores and write initialize in it, and then another 2 underscores. Okay, so now we can say, all right, this function, of course, it must have, what must it have? What is the variable that it must have, whether it likes it or not? Self. Barakallahu fiqh. It has to have self, or else the objects will get confused. Everybody will lose which one is his. All right. So what's the next? So now we can say, okay, whenever we create the object, we expect the user to give us 2 numbers. Let's call these numbers R and S. If we collect these numbers from the user, if we come inside our function, the variable we create for this object, remember, we are doing it for the specific object we are creating. So that's why we will call this variable self dot A. It should save R, and self dot B should save S. So when I'm creating the object, in the beginning, I will put these 2 values. Let's make life easy. Let's remove this. So I can just say, okay, up math 10 and 5, up math 3 and minus 1. You see what I'm doing now? What's going to happen is that if you let me have a better. So when you run line 3, the computer will create the object variable 1. In the process it is creating the object, it will take this value 10, it will put it inside R. It will take this value 5, it will put it inside S. That's why this guy is called initializer, the constructor. It takes the initial values of everything and it gets everything ready. So the value inside R now, we put it inside what? A. And the value inside S, we put it inside B. Why did we put this self? Yeah, because self is talking about var1. So if I run up math again, but I said var2, now self is what? Now self is var2. So if it takes this 3 and put inside R, and it takes this minus 1 and put inside S, so the the A for var2 will get the 3, and the B for var2 will get the minus 1. Does it make sense now? So that's why the self is very important.
But we put var1 in the beginning, right?
Var1? Yeah. So look at it this way. This is the original copy. Okay? Whenever you create an object, the address of the object is the name of the variable you created is very important, because we will add it to the new copy that we are making, right? And we are also customizing this copy, because this copy has two variables inside it. So it's like if you come here and you create two variables, A and B. So if I make a copy, I will have A and B here too, isn't it? So how does the computer knows which A and which B? It has to know the name of the variable, right? So when you are creating the object, like you did here, it will take this address along with the two variables. It will give it to initialize. This initialize will take the address and put it inside self. It will take this 10, put inside R, and it will take the 5 and put inside S. Do you understand?
But why? We used to have like A and B. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, what I'm trying to do now is I want to remove all these A's and B's. I want to make one A and B, which everybody here can share. I want to have one A and B. Instead of always asking for A and B, I will have one A and B, and I want to remove all this A and B. So that's why I'm putting you in all this trouble. Any question? Okay, so now that I have A and B dedicated for bar 1, which we call self A and self B, right? So we can just remove this A and B, because this A and B that you put inside the function, once you finish running the function, it will die, because it's exactly the same way you do when you are creating variables in a function, right? Whenever you run a function, these variables A, B, and C will be created. Once you reach return, they will all go away, they will all die out. You understand? But if I have these two, self A and self B, they will always exist. So even if I finish running the function, they will still be around. So they are like global variables, but inside the class only. You understand? So what I'm doing here is, instead of A plus B, what should I do?
Self A.
Barakallahu fi. See, if I have a lot of money, I would have bought you a private jet. So self.A, because we are talking about that A, and self.B for that B. So now I don't need to put A and B in the address. Does it make sense? Yeah?
Why didn't you just put R on this?
R, that's what I want. I intentionally use R and S to show you the difference between the two. If you put a variable in the list of parameters for your function, they are temporary. Once you finish running the function, they will go.
Wouldn't it go after the self A and self B? Wouldn't it go after the...
Yeah, the self A and self B will remain together with all these other functions forever until the object is until you finish running the code. Yes?
If we did but the same variable A and B instead of ours, is it right?
Yeah, but they are different A and B. It's like all the Muhammads we have in this class. You can't collect money from Muhammad al-Shammari and give it to Muhammad al-Faisal. You are going to start a mini world war, right? So if you have A and B here in the name of in the list of parameters for the function, those A and B are totally different from self A and self B. This self A and self B are for all the class. This A and B are only for that function. Once you finish running the function, they will go. Yeah.
How does Python know that self A should not be removed after A?
Exactly, because you said self A. When it creates it, because of this self, it will remain inside the self. So in this case, you have var1, right? So when it creates A, it will keep it inside var1. When it creates B, it will keep it inside var2. Since you didn't put self dot in the name of R, then it will just destroy R and S. For example, this copies of A and B in line 11, A and B in line 11 will go. Because why? Because they don't have any self in them. So we can just do away with this A and B like this, and we can just change this to what? Self.A and self.B. And we do the same for this. Self.A and self.B. Okay. What you need to understand here is that self A and self B will be together with the function, with the object that we created. But this variable C, how about it? What's going to happen to C? Barakallahu fi. Now you are an expert. Should give you PhD. Okay, so this C, because it doesn't have any self, it will just die out immediately you finish the function.
Why not put self.C?
Because I want to show you the difference between a variable that has self and a variable that does not have self. These two variables that have self are what we call instance variables.
So they are variables for the whole class.
Exactly. Barakallahu. They are variables for the whole class. Whenever you create the class, they come along with the class. The self is what enables the computer to differentiate A and B for variable X and A and B for A and B for var1 and A and B for var2. That's just the use of the self. That's its work, just to differentiate. Okay? So that's what you call instance variable. Is this clear? So we have seen instance variable, method, and constructor. So now, if you run this, now if you come here and you run this, you will get an error. You have to, so you see we are getting an error because it points in line 5. You don't need all this. I only need the address of the variable. I only need one argument. You are giving me 3. What's wrong with you? So in this case, you just say sorry and remove those. So now, if you run it, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen? Let's start from line 3. If you run line 3, an object will be created, and the name of the that object you create will be var1, which is of type operation mark. The 10 will enter R, and the 5 will enter S, and then they will enter the initialize. In the end, A will have 10, B will have
S for var1.
5. Yeah, barakallahu. Now, for because when I went to the other line, what did I do? Okay, let's keep track here. So A is 5, right? No, 10, and B is 5. Now, when we reach line 4, what happens?
Another box is made.
Barakallahu fi. So another box is made, which is this one here. So what do we do to this box? We check. R will collect 3, S will collect 1. In the end, A will collect 3, B will collect -1, right? So this will be 3, and this will be what? Minus 1. Does this make sense? Okay. If this makes sense to you, my job is done. All right. Now, in line 5, what do you think is going to happen?
Line 5.
Yes. Bar 1 dot addition.
It will choose addition and put the variables of the bar 1.
So it will just come to this box. Which of the boxes?
Bar 1.
It will look at self. It will see there is bar 1 inside self. Then it will come to this box. It will find that A is 10, B is 5. So it will go to addition. Barakallahu feek. When it comes to addition, what will it do? It will add self A, which is 10, and self B, which is 5. We will get 15. The 15 will enter C, and then we put C, and then we return C. We are returning. So since we are returning a value, we need a variable to collect the result. So 15 will enter Z. Barakallahu fi. The same thing is going to happen to P. But this time around we have var 2. Barakallahu fi. So it will just go to the other box. In the box for bar 2, A is 3, B is minus 1. So it will come to addition and it will try to do the addition. So when we come to addition, A will have 3, B will have minus 1. So 3 plus minus 1 is 2. So C will have 2 and 2 will be returned. So P will have 2. So in line 8, I print Z, which is 15. In line 9, I print P, which is 2. Is this clear? Yeah. In the functions, yeah, it will still work. It's a function. So, for example, if you have input here, for example, if you have input, let's say I have D equal to input, enter your name, right? Labaika. Yes? Are they not hearing us? Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so if you do this, it will just run it because you are running a function. Apart from the class closing everything inside a box and making copy, every other thing will run just like the functions you know. So if you do this, it will create a variable D and it will collect the name. If you like, you can print D. But what do you think is going to happen to D after the addition? It will die because we have not created it as part of the self variable, as part of the instance variables. So if you try running, when it comes to addition, it will ask you what is your name. You give it your name and it will just print it. You see that? So it will run exactly like the functions you know.
Can I make like the 10 and 5 into inputs? The ones the A and down, not in this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one.
Yeah.
The 10 and 5.
Yeah, of course you can. We can just come here and instead of doing this, you can have x equal to int input, just like we did before. I just removed them to I don't want all these questions asking me and like this. Yeah, you can do that. Why not? And then if we come here, we can use x and y. But the values of x and y will enter R and S. So x and y have finished their work, they have sent the value, and then R and S will give it to A and B.
And if I had one, I have to do other something other variables than x and y for var2, right?
Now,
For var2, I have to do other variables.
if you like, you can do the same, or you can ask again using the same variables, because if you do another question here, the previous value of the variables will go, right? So apart from the class, everything you do everything you learn is the same as you know it. So you can use the same variables or different variables, and then you can put the values inside x and y. Okay, so you can just see x and y or yx, depending on which one you want to add to which one or which one you want to subtract. Any questions so far? No questions? Okay. So that's what all these things are all about. In this example, what they said is your task is to create a bank account. Okay? Customers can deposit and withdraw funds. If sufficient fund is not available in the account, a $10 overdraft penalty is charged. So if the person is asking more than what he is supposed to, we charge overdraft. At the end of the month, interest is added to each account. Okay? So this is like a mini ATM you are creating. So at the end of the month, they will ask you for the rate, and then they create an interest. Interest is like a reward you give the person for saving money with your bank. I know it's wrong, but let's assume that. Okay, so deposit, withdraw, and interest. Those are the things we want to create in our class. So what do I need to do? What is the first thing to do? Exactly. We can start with the class. Let's call the class bank account. Okay? Then inside we have three functions, right? We have one called deposit. We have another called withdraw.
Shouldn't we start with the instance variable?
Yeah, Barakallahu. Let's do that. Initializer, the constructor, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll come back to it. Let's put all the functions we need, and then we carefully go one after the other. Then what else? Interest, right? Called add interest. And then now we can start. Well, we need one more that will allow us to see our bank account. When you finish withdrawing from ATM, you always see your bank account balance, right? So we can have get balance. Okay? Okay. View balance. Okay, so this is what we have. Now, let's start with like you said, let's start with the constructor. Yeah. So the constructor will collect input from the user. We know that whether constructor likes it or not, it must have self. Okay, then we collect the initial balance from the user. The initial balance is the money you put first in your account. Okay, so the initial balance, and then we can say self dot balance. If I want to hide this variable, I don't want anybody to see it. For example, here, if you try doing something like var1 dot let's remove this. Let's copy this and let's create something at the bottom. So if I run this, now if I say something like var1 dot, you can see I can see A and B. If you want to hide A and B from the user, all you have to do is just put an underscore in front of the variable like this. Okay? If you put an underscore in front of the variable, then it will hide. Well, if the user is naughty, he can still find it. But it is a standard that if I see an underscore, I will not disturb the variable as a second-hand program. So balance is equal to what? Initial balance. If somebody forgets to put the balance, we can put something like this. So what happens is, if you forget to put the balance, the initial balance will automatically be 0. So this is equal 0, initial balance equals 0. The equal 0 is like the default. If you forget to put any value, it will just collect this 0 and it will make balance 0. Any question?
This format. If I add an initial balance,
Yes.
automatically be zero, delete my input.
No. If you give it input, it will use the input you give it. So if you put value like, if you say bank account, in the bracket you put 3. 3 will enter initial balance, and then when you enter the function, self._balance will become 3.
But before the definition, if I just say z equals initial balance,
Yes.
and then add z equals 0, would it be just 0?
No. Z equals 0 will destroy that box you create, delete everything, and put 0. No. The difference is, here I have a whole box called bank account with many functions inside it. Okay? It's a class called bank account. So if I want to put 0 inside balance, the only way I can do that is through this function, because only this function have access to get balance. So I will say bank account, open bracket, and I put the number I want to put inside initial balance. So the number you put will enter initial balance, and then initial balance will hand it over to self.balance. If you say z.0, the computer will take your shiny bank account box, trample on top of it and throw it away, and then put 0 in X. Now z has become an integer instead of bank account. You understand the difference? So the only way you can access bank account is through this guy, or if you create some special function to be manipulating the variable. Okay? Deposit. So in deposit, what we want to do is we want to collect an amount of money from the user. Yes?
Aren't we going to let the user put an input for the initial balance? Why did we put 0 there?
Okay, let's do this. Let's test what we have done so far. Okay? Let's test it. I have to put self in to avoid error, right? Or else the computer will start complaining. You know how it is. So here I can say pass. Pass means just ignore the function and pass. Pass. Just the same thing you tell your friend if you don't want him to see what you are doing. Pass. Okay. Now if you run this, we have created the class. Now if I say something like z is equal to bank account. Now our constructor needs one variable. Can you see? It is telling me bank account need initial balance. By default, it will be 0. So if I put any value, if I put like 10, if I run this, now z has 10 inside it. but I have no way of seeing what is inside Z. One way you can do is you can say Z dot underscore. See, that's because I know balance is there. So if you do this, you see, the 10 has entered inside balance.
How?
Okay, so if you remember, we said if you create an object, the first thing the computer does is run initialize, right? And then we said bank account, and then we put 10 here. So what's going to happen? Somebody should help me out. Which line will the computer go?
It would go to initial balance.
Line 2. So when it comes to line 2, it will put that 10 inside initial balance. The reason why I put this equal to 0 is because if I do something like this, if I have another variable, let's say y is equal to, and I just said bank account, and I forgot to put anything inside the variable. If I try y dot balance, yeah. So if you run this, it will be 0. That's the only reason why we put the equal sign there. If you forget to put a value inside, if you put a value, the value will be taken by initial balance and it will transfer it to balance. But if you forgot, it will just take this 0 and it will use it. Any question? All right. So deposit. What deposit? We can do get balance. Get balance, the work of view balance is to show me that my balance. So what should it do? It should return. Barakallahu fi. Return what? Self dot balance. So if you run this, now instead of going just directly and using the secret variable, I will just say dot view balance. And if you run this, oops, sorry, we have to use the bracket, right? So if we do this, now you see this is much better because we are using the function instead of the private variable. Deposit. Deposit should collect an amount from you and put it in your bank account, barakallahu fik, in your balance. So we'll say amount is, then we come here, what do we say here? Self dot balance is equal to what? Self dot balance plus barakallahu fi. This will increase the amount in the bank account. Now, if you want to withdraw, how do you do it?
Amount.
Yes, we need to know the amount. So, if we come here, I can just copy this, lazy man's work, and then just paste it here and change this to, but there was a condition they told us. If somebody is withdrawing money that he doesn't have, we should do what? Take $10 from him.
We can put it.
Barakallahu fiqh. See, I told you are an expert now. So self dot balance, if it is negative after we withdraw the money, that means he is taking more money than he has. So as a punishment, what do? We subtract $10 from his account. So the next time his salary comes in, automatically we will take away our $10. You understand? Yeah. So then you have the add interest. The interest has something they call rate. The rate is how much percentage are we going to give you from the business we did with your money. Because the bank is doing business with your money. Those things you see in your bank account are just numbers. The money is not there. So if they do the business, how much percent of that business are they going to give you as a profit? So that amount, we can just call it, yes, self-balance equal to self-balance plus it's a rate. So we are going to add 10% to your account. So if you have 100 real, the 10% of 100 real is 10. So they will add 10 real to the account, so you will have 110. So we have to say plus. Okay, thank you. Self, you are a good coder. That's good. Balance times the rate divided by 100, right? Because he will give us the rate as a percentage. So we have finished our code. Now, we have a bank account, Z, and then this guy, we can check how much he has by saying, since view balance returns a value, we can save it in a variable, and then we can just say, okay, print 1, okay? Or you can just go ahead and say print z.viewBalance. So this will help us see the balance. Now we can add some money inside his account. What should I do if I want to deposit? Z.deposit, and then we put the money. Because, let's say 20. Because Z.deposit has no return, or even if you put return, if it is not returning anything, you can just say return without returning. So if it doesn't return anything, we don't need a variable to collect anything. So we have deposited. We can also try and view the balance and see what happened. Right? Then all of a sudden, this guy, we give him some interest also. So we can say Z dot add interest. Let's say the rate is 10%. And let's see what happens. Okay? So let's try the code. If we run this, what's next? Okay, we run this. We create the two accounts, Z and Y. Oh, I'm using Y. Why am I doing this? Let me use another thing. Q. So to view what is inside the balance, I can say Q. So if you run this, we can see what is inside his account. We can also say Q here. If we run this after deposit, initially his money is 10 real. So if we run this, what do we get? 30, right? So if we add interest, what's going to happen? 10% of 30 will be 0.3. 0.3. Let's see. So if you run this, it's 3. So you are a better mathematician. Alright, now, supposing this guy went to party with his friends and he wants to show them he's rich, and he withdraw 50 real. So what's going to... Do you know somebody who is doing that? Yeah, everybody has a friend like that. Okay, so now, and then he goes home and he starts sweating. So if he withdraws 50, what do we expect? No, it will give him 50, but
it will be minus 10 after he collects his
exactly. So 50 minus 33, that will be minus 17, plus the 10 real that we will charge him for withdrawing more than his account. So we'll have 27. So if you run this, it will be minus 27. Any question, guys? All right, alhamdulillah.